These are the 7 levels of Fallout power armor. Level 1. Trash armor. Raider power armor is what happens when you give a meth head a blowtorch and tell them to fix military hardware. Scavengers slap together whatever metal scraps they can find, bolt it onto a stolen frame, and call it a day. The Raiders don't care about mil-spec standards or proper hydraulic calibration. They just want something that stops bullets better than their leather jacket and looks intimidating enough to make settlers piss themselves. You'll find these rust buckets worn by gangs like the Disciples or just random psychos who got lucky looting a military convoy. The protection is garbage tier, offering 500 base damage resistance for physical hits and 250 for energy weapons, which sounds decent until you realize that's the exact same stats as proper T-45 armor, but without any of the actual craftsmanship or quality control. The energy resistance especially is pathetic compared to later models. Radiation protection sits at 1050, which is actually respectable, but that's only because the Raiders accidentally left the proper shielding intact when they were hacking everything else apart. The carry weight bonus is completely non-existent, meaning you're lugging around a heavy frame with zero practical benefits beyond protection. Most Raiders can't even get the servo motors working properly, so you're missing that sweet strength boost that makes power armor actually worth wearing. The suits drain fusion cores at standard rate despite providing inferior protection, which is the wasteland equivalent of driving a gas-guzzling junker that breaks down every 50 miles. It's the participation trophy of power armor, proof that even idiots with zero technical training can cobble together something that technically functions. But hey, at least you're not running around naked in a world full of deathclaws and super mutants. The tribal variant is even worse, featuring literal patchwork construction with whatever materials happen to be available, including wood and scrap metal that has no business being on a power armor frame. You're probably thinking it only gets better from here, and you'd be right, except for one suit we'll hit later that's even worse than this in combat. But players still wear it religiously. Why? That answer's coming. Level 2. Starter armor. The T-45 was the United States military's first real attempt at powered combat armor, rolled out in 2067 when the government finally realized sending regular soldiers against Chinese tanks and powered infantry was basically assisted suicide. This thing is a tank with legs, designed to turn regular infantry into walking fortresses during the Alaskan campaign against Chinese occupation forces. It's got steel plating reinforced with composite materials, hydraulic servos pumping enough force to let soldiers lift and fire heavy weapons with one hand, and enough protection to laugh at small arms fire while shrugging off most explosives. The armor features a full environmental seal with air filtration, radiation shielding built into every plate, and a targeting heads-up display that tracks enemy movement and ammunition counts. The stats tell the story of compromise. T-45 offers 500 base damage resistance for physical attacks, which will stop most conventional firearms and keep you alive against deathclaw swipes. Energy resistance is only 250 though, meaning laser and plasma weapons will cook you faster than a radroach in a microwave. Radiation protection hits 1050, providing solid shielding for exploring the glowing sea or other hot zones without turning into a ghoul. The full set gives you 100 pounds of extra carry weight, which is clutch when you're hauling mini nukes and heavy weapons. The servo motors provide a flat strength boost when the armor is properly powered, letting you handle weapons that would normally require a tripod mount. But here's the kicker. Fusion core drain is standard rate, meaning you're burning through power cells at the same pace as superior armor that offers way better protection. It's like driving a truck that gets the same mileage as a sports car, but only goes half as fast. In gameplay terms, T-45 is your starter power armor in Fallout 4, literally handed to you and conquered during the When Freedom Calls quest, when you're fighting your first Deathclaw with a minigun you found on a roof. It's a tutorial sequence designed to make you feel like an absolute god until you realize the fusion core runs out in 20 minutes and replacement cores cost more caps than you've ever seen. The suits are everywhere though, over 30 documented spawn locations across the Commonwealth. You'll find frames at military checkpoints, National Guard depots, crashed vertibirds, and random rooftops where soldiers made their last stand. Modding options include hardened lining for extra damage resistance, a medic pump that auto-injects chems, targeting HUDs for better VATS accuracy, and kinetic servos that increase movement speed. You can paint it different colors if you want to roleplay or just make yourself a bigger target. It's the Honda Civic of power armor. Reliable, common, and nobody brags about wearing one when there's literally any other option available. T-45 is handed to you in 20 minutes. But here's what the military doesn't advertise. They rushed this into production so fast it had fatal flaws. The real question is why they rushed it, and that answer comes with the armor that actually won the war. Keep that in mind. Level 3. Worker armor. Here's that suit I mentioned, the one that's worse than Raider armor in combat. 240 base damage resistance. Pathetic. A pipe rifle can shred you. So why do endgame players use it? Forget war for a second, somebody finally made power armor for people who actually contribute to society. Excavator armor was designed by West Tech engineer Harold Frost specifically for mining operations, and it shows in every rivet, joint, and hydraulic system. This isn't about surviving bullets or energy weapons or super mutant haymakers. It's about surviving surviving cave-ins, carrying literal tons of ore without your spine turning into powder, and working 16-hour shifts in conditions that would kill an unaugmented human. There's no carry weight bonus listed in the base specs, but that's misleading as hell. Here's where Excavator becomes absolutely essential for certain builds. The armor quadruples your ore yield when mining resource nodes, turning every deposit into a jackpot. One node that normally gives you 5 steel scraps will spit out 20 instead. That multiplier applies to everything: iron, lead, copper, aluminum, all the materials you need for crafting and building. The true carry weight bonus is huge too, a full 100 pounds that stacks with strength perks and backpack mods. You become a walking forklift capable of hauling entire workshops worth of junk back to base. The helmet features ore detection sensors that highlight mineral deposits through walls and terrain, basically giving you X-ray vision for resources. You'll be wandering through the wasteland and suddenly your HUD lights up showing you there's a lead vein buried in that cliff face or an aluminum deposit under that building. For resource hoarders and settlement builders, this is game-changing information that would normally require extensive exploration and dumb luck. The payoff is niche, but powerful for specific playstyles. If you're running a scavenging build focused on gathering materials, exploring every location, and building elaborate settlements, Excavator is your best friend and constant companion. If you're doing a combat-focused playthrough where you're fighting scorch beasts and running raids, you'll get shredded like tissue paper. It's proof that not every power armor needs to be a weapon of war. Sometimes you just need to dig holes, carry obscene amounts of stuff, and keep the economy running without your spine collapsing into dust. Remember this armor, because when we get to the rarest suit in the game, the one that costs months to get, you'll realize Excavator is actually the secret weapon for getting there. But first, let's talk about the suit that proved power armor could actually win wars. Level 4, Classic Armor. Remember when I said T-45 was rushed into production with fatal flaws? This is why. They were buying time until T-51 was ready. The T-51 is widely considered the pinnacle of American power armor development before the bombs dropped, and for good reason this suit won actual wars and changed the course of history. The coating is a polylaminate composite with reflective properties specifically designed to disperse laser and plasma fire across the surface instead of letting it burn through. The armor plating uses a titanium alloy matrix that's significantly lighter than T-45's steel construction while providing superior protection against kinetic impacts. This was the armor that reclaimed Anchorage from Chinese occupation and made their forces retreat in disorganized chaos. American soldiers in T-51 suits walked through conventional defensive positions like they weren't even there, shrugging off everything from small arms to artillery. The Chinese tried developing their own powered armor to counter it, but their communist model was inferior in every measurable way. The Brotherhood of Steel treats these suits like holy relics because they represent everything the old world did right before it nuked itself into radioactive oblivion. When you put on T-51, you're wearing a piece of pre-war history that actually lived up to the propaganda hype. This is the suit that proved power armor was worth the absurd development costs and resource investment. It's not the absolute best anymore, but it's the armor that defined what power armor should be. T-51 won the war. It was the pinnacle of pre-war engineering. So why did the Brotherhood of Steel abandon it 10 years after Fallout 3? The answer involves a suit that technically shouldn't exist, and it starts one of the biggest controversies in Fallout lore. Let's get into it. Level 5, Elite Armor. T-60 is the controversial favorite that showed up fashionably late to the apocalypse and immediately started arguments. And here's where we need to talk about the secret I mentioned at the start, because T-60 proves that the best armor isn't about raw stats. Introduced in Fallout 4 with zero prior mention in any previous game, this suit supposedly rolled out post-Anchorage in 2077 for domestic riot control, which makes lore enthusiasts scream retcon louder than a super mutant with a minigun. The timeline is sus as hell. T-60 appears in Fallout 4 as the Brotherhood of Steel's standard issue armor, but Fallout 3 showed them using T-45 exclusively just 10 years earlier in the same general region. New Vegas never mentioned it. Earlier games definitely didn't have it. Bethesda basically invented a new top-tier armor and inserted it into the timeline right before the bombs fell, claiming it was mass-produced and distributed, but somehow nobody found any for 200 years. The community is split between people who accept it as canon and people who think Bethesda just wanted a new armor design without worrying about continuity. Lore debates aside, T-60 is objectively superior to T-51 in raw numerical protection. It delivers 565 base physical damage resistance and 470 for both energy and radiation, making it significantly tougher than the previous standard. The armor uses advanced composite plating that's thicker and heavier than T-51's titanium alloy, prioritizing maximum protection over mobility. The frame is bulkier and more intimidating, covered in heavy plating that screams American military excess and over-engineering. It's what happens when the government throws unlimited budget at the problem and tells engineers to make the scariest-looking armor possible. The design philosophy is pure pre-war America. Bigger is better. More armor is always the answer. And who cares about efficiency urgency when you can just brute force the problem. The servo motors are more powerful to handle the additional weight, the fusion pack is larger, and the whole suit is designed to make the wearer look like an unstoppable walking tank. The helmet features an upgraded targeting system, enhanced communication equipment, and a voice modulator that makes you sound appropriately intimidating. This was what the government was mass-producing when the nuclear exchange happened, meaning parts and full suits are surprisingly common despite being top-tier hardware. The military was in the process of replacing T-45 models with T-60 for domestic operations. The armor was never meant to fight Chinese soldiers. It was meant to fight American citizens who were starving and angry about resource shortages. Elder Maxon's Brotherhood of Steel runs entire squads exclusively in T-60, making it their signature look in Fallout 4. When you see Brotherhood Knights and Paladins stomping around the Commonwealth or rappelling from vertibirds, they're wearing T-60. The Pridwin carries dozens of suits, and Brotherhood patrols are walking advertisements for pre-war American military hardware. You'll find T-60 sets scattered across military checkpoints, National Guard armories, Brotherhood bases, and high-level randomized spawns. The armor starts appearing at higher player levels, replacing some T-45 spawns with upgraded parts. A full set can be acquired from Brotherhood questlines or by systematically looting every military installation in the Commonwealth. The carry weight bonus is 75 pounds for a complete set, splitting the difference between T-45's 100 and T-51's 50. The fusion core drain is standard rate, same as every other power armor except specialized variants. The strength boost lets you dominate in melee combat and wield heavy weapons like their rifles. Tesla electrodes create an electrical field that damages and stuns nearby enemies, turning you into a walking bug zapper. The standard suite includes a jetpack for vertical mobility, optimized servos for better movement speed, targeting Hue Die for VATS improvements, kinetic dynamo for action point regeneration, and emergency protocols that boost speed and damage resistance when health is low. The TV series version of T-60 takes things even further, incorporating integrated jump jets for actual short-distance flight and what appears to be an improved fusion system. The show's armor looks even bulkier and more imposing. When Brotherhood Knights drop from vertibirds in the show, they're piloting what are essentially single-person tanks with legs. Some fans hate T-60 for appearing out of nowhere in the established timeline without any logical explanation. Others appreciate having a new design that looks distinct from earlier models while providing genuinely superior stats. Complaining about retcons in Fallout is like complaining about radiation pointless, exhausting, and it's not going to change anything. T-60 exists. It's powerful. It looks intimidating as hell, and the Brotherhood thinks it's the pinnacle of pre-war military technology. But here's the thing, T-60 has higher stats than T-51. But is it actually better? That's debatable. And this debate gets even weirder when you see what comes next, because there's a suit with experimental tech that was never finished, until the Enclave spent 200 years perfecting it. That's where things get wild. Level 6. Prototype armor. This is the secret that separates Wasteland gods from everyone else. X-01 is the what-if armor that never got its moment in the sun until after the world ended. This was supposed to be America's next-generation prototype, a post-T-51 improvement that remained experimental and buggy when the Great War turned everyone into shadows on concrete. The development timeline is complicated and shrouded in pre-war secrecy. X-01 was being tested in 2077 as a potential successor to the T-51 platform, incorporating experimental technologies and materials that went beyond conventional armor design. The prototypes were limited in number, plagued with technical issues, and never reached full production before the bombs dropped. Most of the research data, schematics, and prototype units were destroyed in the nuclear exchange, making X-01 one of the rarest armor platforms in existence. The Enclave changed everything. They salvaged X-01 schematics and prototype data before October 23rd, preserving the research in secure bunkers and oil rig facilities. For the next century plus, Enclave scientists and engineers worked on perfecting the design, fixing the bugs, and pushing the technology far beyond its original specifications. The result was advanced power armor, the Enclave's signature armor that represents the absolute cutting edge of power armor development. These suits represent genuine post-war innovation built on pre-war foundations. The armor uses ceramic composite plating that's lighter and stronger than anything developed before the war, with a polymer matrix that distributes impact force across the entire frame. The servo motors are more sophisticated, the power system is more efficient, and the entire suit is designed with lessons learned from 2 centuries of combat experience. The helmet features advanced sensor suites, enhanced vision modes including thermal and night vision, an improved targeting computer, and a voice modulator that makes Enclave soldiers sound like authoritarian death robots. Base X-01 stats are impressive, but the Enclave variants are where things get ridiculous. Standard X-01 provides excellent protection across the board with high damage resistance values that compete with T-60. The Enclave Advanced Power Armor Mark II pushes physical damage resistance to 620, making it the most protective suit in the entire franchise for stopping bullets and kinetic impacts. Energy resistance sits at 250, which is somewhat lower than physical physical, and radiation protection is 1050 like most other suits. The carry weight bonus is 50 pounds for a full set, same as T-51. Fusion core drain is standard rate despite the advanced technology, proving even future armor can't solve the fundamental energy crisis that plagues all powered systems. The servo motors provide the standard strength boost that's consistent across all power armor platforms. Specialized Enclave variants take the platform in different directions. Hellfire armor was developed as a prototype reallocation that sacrifices some physical protection for dramatically enhanced energy resistance, making it ideal for fighting enemies with laser and plasma weapons. The armor is painted black and orange with vents that glow red, looking like you crawled out of hell itself. XO2 armor prioritizes agility and mobility over raw protection, featuring lighter plating and enhanced servo motors for soldiers who need to move fast while still having power armor protection. The Quantum variant is pure post-war insanity. Someone figured out how to integrate strontium-90 isotope plating into X-01 frames, making the entire suit glow blue like Nuka-Cola Quantum. It provides enhanced radiation resistance and looks absolutely incredible, like you're piloting a radioactive ghost. The Institute apparently developed their own version called X-01I that incorporates polymer upgrades and intelligence-boosting modifications, because apparently nerds need power armor too. The concept art shows white and gray plating with exposed Institute technology, but this variant never made it into the final game. Finding X-01 usually means endgame exploration or completing high-level faction content. Fallout 4 hides full sets in remote locations accessible only to high-level players. The abandoned shack near the glowing sea has a full set locked behind a master terminal. Custom House Tower in downtown Boston has pieces scattered across the upper floors. Court 35 has a full frame if you're willing to fight through the building. The randomized spawns start appearing after level 28, gradually replacing lower-tier armor in certain locations. The Enclave variants appear in Fallout 2, Fallout 3, and Fallout 76 as faction-specific armor worn by Enclave soldiers and officers. You'll be fighting Enclave patrols and killing them for their armor, or completing questlines that reward you with suits. In Fallout 76, you can eventually craft X-01 using plans purchased with caps, making it more accessible than previous games where you had to loot or steal every piece. Modifications follow the standard power armor suite: jetpack for mobility, optimized servos for speed, targeting HUD for combat bonuses, kinetic dynamo for action points, and emergency protocols for last stand situations. The Enclave variants often come with unique mods installed like Tesla coils for energy deflection, or sensor arrays for enhanced detection. When you wear X-01 or advanced power armor, you're piloting the pinnacle of pre-war ambition refined by post-apocalyptic desperation. This is what happens when you take experimental technology and spend 200 years perfecting it without ethical oversight or budget constraints. It's armor designed by people who survived the apocalypse and decided they were going to rebuild America their way, whether anyone else liked it or not. X-01 is post-war evolution. The Enclave perfected what pre-war America couldn't finish. But even this isn't the true endgame, because there's one suit that breaks every rule genuinely built from scratch after the bombs fell. And getting it, that's where the game tests whether you're truly committed. Let me explain why people grind for months to get armor with the same stats as what we just covered. Level 7, God tier. Here's the paradox I promised. T65 has the exact same stats as T60. 565 physical resistance, 470 energy, 75 pounds carry weight, identical. So why do players grind for months to get it? Welcome to the absolute peak armor so exclusive you can't just stumble across it in some abandoned military base. T65 represents something genuinely revolutionary in the Fallout universe. Legitimate post-war innovation that isn't just refurbished pre-war technology or Enclave improvements on old designs. T65 was developed by the Secret Service after the Great War, meaning this is genuine post-apocalyptic engineering built from scratch using knowledge preserved from before. The bombs and innovations discovered during survival. The Secret Service maintained their operations in various secure bunkers, preserving technical expertise and continuing research and development programs while the rest of America turned into a radioactive nightmare. They designed T65 specifically for protecting high-value government personnel and assets, creating a suit that matched or exceeded the best pre-war models. The development represents a massive achievement in a world where most people are struggling to manufacture bullets and keep generators running. Creating an entirely new power armor platform requires industrial capabilities, material science knowledge, advanced manufacturing equipment, and skilled engineers, all things that should be impossible in the post-apocalypse. The Secret Service somehow maintained all of this, proving that pockets of pre-war expertise survived and continued advancing technology. Getting T65 requires engaging with Fallout 76's endgame progression system in ways that will test your patience and dedication. You need to grind treasury notes through daily quests, events, and faction activities, then convert those notes into gold bullion at specific vendors. The plans for T65 cost massive amounts of bullion purchased from a vendor named Regs, who operates out of Vault 79. We're talking thousands of bullion for the complete set of plans. Chests, chest, helmet, arms, legs, and all the individual modifications. The grind is intentionally brutal. Daily quests give limited treasury notes. Bullion conversion is capped per day, and the plan costs are astronomical. You're looking at weeks or months of consistent play to afford everything. Then you still need to gather all the crafting materials: steel, aluminum, screws, springs, circuitry, and other components in quantities that would make a scavenger weep. The bullion system makes casual players give up entirely, but that's the point. T65 is endgame content for people who've exhausted everything else and need new goals. The payoff matches the investment. T65 delivers 565 base physical damage resistance, matching T60 while being significantly rarer and more prestigious. Energy resistance hits 470, same as T60. Radiation protection is 470 as well, creating a balanced defensive profile that handles all threat types equally. The carry weight bonus is 75 pounds for a full set, identical to T60's bonus. So why grind for T65 when T60 offers identical stats and can be found lying around the wasteland? Because the T65 represents post-war achievement and exclusivity that T60 can't match. It's armor built by survivors for survivors, incorporating lessons learned from 2 centuries of fighting in the wasteland. The design is sleeker than T60's bulky profile, with more sophisticated lines and modern engineering that doesn't rely on pre-war over-engineering. The servo motors are optimized, the weight distribution is better, and the whole suit feels like it was designed by people who actually had to live and fight in power armor, rather than just testing it in controlled environments. The Secret Service built T65 specifically for protecting what remained of government interests in Appalachia and beyond. It's armor designed for an elite few who survived the apocalypse and maintained institutional knowledge instead of descending into tribalism or gang warfare. Wearing T65 makes a statement. You're not some raider scraping by with salvaged junk. You're not Brotherhood muscle wearing mass-produced military surplus. You're wearing bespoke post-war engineering that represents the peak of current manufacturing capability. Customization options include the full suite of modern modifications that make power armor genuinely versatile. Jetpack attachment transforms mobility, letting you leap over obstacles and access areas that would normally require walking around. Calibrated shocks add extra carry weight for dedicated scavengers. Emergency protocols activate when health is low, providing damage resistance boosts and movement speed that can save your life in bad situations. Kinetic dynamo generates action points when you sprint, enabling more VATS usage or power attacks. Targeting HUD highlights enemies and improves accuracy. Tesla coils electrocute melee attackers who get too close. Paint schemes let you customize appearance to match your style or faction allegiance. The Secret Service has their official colors, but you can unlock other patterns through achievements and challenges. Some players treat their T65 like a custom hot rod, painting it wild colors and covering it in decals. Others keep it clean and professional, emphasizing the military precision of the design. The existence of T65 proves something crucial about the Fallout universe. The wasteland isn't just about scavenging old-world scraps and slowly regressing to barbarism. Some survivors maintained knowledge, preserved technology, and continued innovating despite the apocalypse. The Secret Service represents institutional continuity that persisted through nuclear war and centuries of chaos. They kept the lights on, maintained their mission, and eventually developed new technology that matches or exceeds pre-war achievements. This is hopeful in a franchise that often emphasizes decay and failure. T65 suggests that recovery is possible, that humanity can rebuild rather than just survive on the ruins of the past. The armor represents the first generation of genuinely post-war military technology, designed by people born in the wasteland for conditions that didn't exist before the bombs. It's not a museum piece or salvaged relic. It's a working tool built by survivors who refused to give up on civilization. When you finally assemble a full set of T65 after weeks of grinding, you're not wearing history, you're making it. You're piloting armor that represents post-apocalyptic achievement rather than pre-war excess. You're proof that humanity can still create something new and impressive even after nuclear annihilation. You're wearing the future instead of the past. So, back to that question. Why grind months for the same stats as T60? Because this isn't about numbers anymore. T60 is pre-war excess, America throwing unlimited resources at problems. T65 is post-war achievement, survivors rebuilding better than before with limited resources and 2 centuries of hard-won experience. When you wear T60, you're cosplaying the old world. When you wear T65, you're wearing proof that humanity didn't just survive the apocalypse. We evolved past it. That's why the stats don't matter. That's the secret. T65 is the god tier because it represents the absolute peak of what's currently achievable in the post-war wasteland. It's not experimental enclave prototypes or refurbished military surplus. It's working, functional, modern armor built by people who survived the end of the world and decided to keep advancing. When you wear T65, you're not wearing the past, you're wearing the future, and that's why it's god tier. If you enjoyed this video and want to see every crazy Fallout 4 theory that might actually be true, click the video on the screen.